When we think of medieval warfare, we imagine clashing swords, thundering war horses, and knights locked in brutal combat. We picture the iconic weapons of the time: longswords, battle axes, war hammers, tools built for blood and glory. But not every weapon was forged for killing. Some were made with a different purpose: control, humiliation, and profit. There exists one medieval weapon so strange, so calculated, and so utterly forgotten by modern storytelling that it sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, except it was real. It didn't slash. It didn't pierce. It didn't crush. It simply reached out and took you. This wasn't a blade for heroes or a symbol of honor. It was a weapon designed to end a fight before it ever truly began. Quiet, cold, precise, and in the right hands, more terrifying than any sword. Today, we're uncovering the weapon that medieval knights feared not because it could kill them, but because it could take everything else. Number 1, a weapon with one job. In the world of medieval warfare, most weapons were designed with one goal: inflict damage, cause bleeding, or deliver a killing blow. Swords sliced through flesh, maces shattered bones, polearms punctured armor. But the man-catcher stood apart from all of them. It wasn't designed to kill. It wasn't even designed to wound. It had a single focused purpose: seize and restrain. Nothing more, nothing less. And yet, that purpose made it one of the most unsettling and calculated weapons ever developed during the Middle Ages. The man-catcher consisted of a long wooden or metal shaft, often as long as a spear, topped with a unique iron head. This head was shaped like a half-circle cage, sometimes fitted with spring-loaded bars or internal spikes. The ends of the prongs were curved inward to prevent escape. The user would aim this at an enemy, usually one in heavy armor, and thrust forward, locking the ring around their target's neck, shoulder, or waist. Once secured, the victim had no leverage to resist. The weapon didn't cut, it didn't smash, it simply immobilized. The person on the receiving end was dragged down or pulled away like a disobedient animal. Its victims were often knights, men trained for battle, armored from head to toe, mounted on powerful horses, proud and dangerous. But no amount of chivalry or blade skill could help when a steel loop closed around your throat and yanked you backward. Being captured this way wasn't just physically disabling, it was psychologically humiliating. This weapon broke ego as effectively as it broke formation. What made the man-catcher so disturbing wasn't the violence, it was the absence of it. It represented cold strategy, a tool for turning war into profit or dominance. A knight struck down might die a hero, but a knight dragged off the field like cargo lost far more than the battle. He lost his image, his fear factor, and his worth in the eyes of his peers. Number 2, knight catching for profit. In the brutal reality of medieval warfare, not every weapon was forged for slaughter. Among the countless instruments of death, a rare few were crafted with precision, calculation, and cold economic logic. The man-catcher belonged entirely to this category. Unlike blades and bludgeons, its function was not to kill, but to capture. And in many cases, that made it far more valuable than any sword. Knights were not only elite warriors, they were assets. Wealthy, titled, and often from noble bloodlines. They represented prestige on the battlefield and power off it. Killing a knight may have satisfied pride, but capturing one alive opened the door to wealth. The system of ransoms in medieval Europe turned war into a business. Once taken prisoner, a knight's release often depended on large sums of money, paid by his family, liege lord, or military order. A single captured noble could be worth more than the spoils of an entire siege. The man-catcher was engineered for this exact outcome. Its forked iron head, usually lined with inward-facing spikes or spring mechanism, could slip beneath a knight's gorget or grip around his armored shoulders with brutal precision. From there, it didn't matter how skilled or well-equipped the knight was. The pole gave the wielder distance, the grip gave control, and the leverage brought the mounted warrior crashing down. No blood, no risk of permanent injury, just a clean extraction of a high-value target. To wield this weapon effectively required timing and courage. It was not swung wildly but aimed and driven forward with intent, often in the heat of cavalry charges or close infantry combat. The man-catcher turned soldiers into tactical opportunists, less concerned with valor and more focused on reward. Its success wasn't measured in death tolls, but in coin, influence, and the silence of a silenced enemy, bound instead of buried. Number 3. Built for urban chaos. While the man-catcher is often associated with battlefield use, its true versatility unfolded within the fortified walls of medieval cities, crowded market streets, and torchlit castle corridors. In these dense and unpredictable environments where chaos could erupt without warning, traditional weapons posed more danger than control. The man-catcher, by contrast, emerged as an ideal solution for dealing with armed and armored individuals without igniting unnecessary bloodshed or property destruction. Urban life in the medieval period was not free from confrontation. Tensions often flared between rival factions, mercenaries, intoxicated nobles, and occasionally even rogue knights who refused to submit to local law. Drawing a blade in a public setting, especially against someone of status, could escalate a disturbance into open conflict. In such scenarios, guards and retainers needed a way to neutralize threats with authority, but without lethal force. The man-catcher provided precisely that. It allowed trained personnel to engage and restrain individuals, especially those wearing mail or plate, without inflicting injury or sparking further unrest. Its iron head, shaped into a semicircular trap, could be slipped around a suspect's neck, arm, or torso. Once contact was made, internal mechanisms or pressure bars locked into place, making escape virtually impossible without external aid. The individual was rendered powerless, not through pain but through total control of their movement. Even the strongest fighter became vulnerable once off balance and held at a distance. Moreover, the weapon's design didn't require exceptional strength. It relied on reach, leverage, and the element of surprise. A guard needed only precision and positioning to subdue someone far stronger or more aggressive. From palace interiors to narrow alleyways, the man-catcher became a silent enforcer of order. It was the tool of authority, designed not to kill but to dominate. And in urban environments, that distinction made all the difference. Number 4. Psychological warfare. In the brutal theater of medieval conflict, where valor and reputation meant as much as victory itself, defeat came in many forms, but none more demoralizing than being seized alive by the cold, iron grip of a man-catcher. While wounds and death were considered part of a warrior's fate, capture through restraint was a different matter entirely. It wasn't simply about being overpowered, it was about being publicly reduced to a state of helplessness. And for the knightly class, whose identity rested on strength, command, and fearlessness, that loss of control struck deeper than any blade. The man-catcher functioned as more than just a mechanical tool. It was a symbol of dominance without blood. When it appeared on the battlefield, it carried with it a silent but unmistakable warning: survival at the cost of dignity. For warriors clad in steel, trained from youth to embody resilience and combat prowess, being pulled from horseback or dragged across mud by a hooked pole was a scenario of nightmare and shame. To be disarmed and immobilized like livestock, in full view of allies and enemies alike, was not just a physical defeat, it was a collapse of status, a direct wound to personal legacy. This weapon rarely operated in isolation. Troops who carried man-catchers were often part of a coordinated unit. Their job was to trap, restrain, and expose. Behind them followed soldiers equipped for containment, armed with ropes, cudgels, or manacles, ready to secure the captive for transport or interrogation. The process was swift, methodical, and devoid of emotion. And that clinical approach only amplified the psychological impact. Even the anticipation of such humiliation altered battlefield dynamics. The mere sight of the device could shake morale. Warriors who believed themselves untouchable beneath plate and mail were forced to confront a new kind of vulnerability: Not the fear of death, but the fear of being made powerless and paraded as a living trophy. Number 5. Forgotten but brilliant. Among the countless weapons crafted throughout the medieval era, few were as uniquely designed and strategically purposeful as the man-catcher. Yet despite its clear effectiveness and precise role in both battlefield engagements and urban control, it has all but vanished from modern memory. It is rarely portrayed in historical fiction, barely acknowledged in visual media, and almost never given a central place in discussions of medieval warfare. This absence is not due to failure in design or irrelevance